It's your boy, and I'm back with another video. And today's topic is about the number one person that you must stay away from. It's an affection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky, right? And I got that from the book called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And I'm going to give you guys a brief, little story, right? Just a little story from the book, right? And, just so that you could see where, the book takes place from. A lot of the stories take place from anywhere from 1800s to 1900s, even far beyond that, right? So this story is about a girl. Her name is Lola Montez. She's a courtesan, right? A courtesan is somebody basically who was a prostitute, but I believe she's a higher end prostitute at that time. So, they had thoughts back in the day too. Don't get it twisted. They had the prostitutes and shit like that. But she was also a dancer, trying to dance and perform. And I believe she got a little good. She got better throughout the years, right? But she was smart. She wanted to basically, she'll look at a man with high power, high image, throughout the city that they stayed at or whatever she was from. And she wanted that guy. She wanted to get that guy. So she knew her target. She wanted to get this guy. So she basically went throughout her days, trying to figure out how to get him, trying to get it throughout his way so that he can look at her, because she was beautiful at the same time too. She looked very nice, and a lot of men liked her. So basically, one of the stories, right, the first guy, right, because this whole story leads into 3 to 4 different men, right? So the first guy she meets, she was horseback riding and he was horseback riding, and he actually kind of liked her. And she basically kept going that same route so that they can see each other and pass by each other, right? So basically he ends up marrying her. So now I'm gonna get into what I have wrote, right? Lola Montez was a courtesan from the 1800s. She marries a newspaper critic. So this guy that she had met, he was a newspaper critic, one of the higher end. So he's making money. He's known. People know him. He's a good guy. Everyone knows him. They kind of like him throughout the way, right? But this is the thing with this girl. She was actually pretty fucking crazy. She knew a lot of things, right? So she was already married before she marries this guy. So she had married somebody. She had married another guy before him. So that's already one guy. Now this is the second guy she's married, right? So this is the second time she's married, right? And back then I don't know if it is now. I don't know if it is a rule now, but you can get, you could go to jail for marrying twice without divorcing, right? I think that's still a rule nowadays, but back then she didn't give a fuck. She just kept it moving. I'm marrying this guy. That's it. So, right. So after marriage, his life went downhill. They began to fight a lot, a lot of things with her. She was just kind of crazy. And throughout these stories, you're going to hear the shit that she had done. And basically, he knows that she's a thought. He knows that she's a courtesan from back in the day. So she was a prostitute, a high end, and everyone throughout the city knew about her. So they knew this dude wifed the thought. He wifed the courtesan. And basically, he had went to this party and she wanted to go. But everyone knew, especially at these parties that he went to, he was a high-end critic. There was a lot of people from, at that time, were higher-end people, just, a lot of business people, a lot of people that make money, right? So his life went downhill, and he was going to go to this party. And the party with his other critic friends, they didn't want to be around him because of this girl. They had nothing want to do with him. They didn't want to do nothing with him, and he kind of changed his, personality and everything. He became, more of a bad person kind of thing. So he goes to this party without her, and she's pleading to go, and he's like, no, fuck away. Everybody knows your thought. I can't have, people think, I can't have people. They already know that they married, but he can't bring her to, a setting like that, So, right, so he went to a party, and a guy who insulted his girl kind of thing, he stood up for his girl, but he was drunk as fuck. So it's one thing for standing up, hey, don't fucking talk about her like that, right? But then he went and started talking some shit, just mad shit about this dude. And he was I believe he was a critic at the time too, the guy he was talking about. And he was also somebody who got the strap. So back then, they were allowed to carry guns and shit. And he had a strap on him, but they knew him throughout the city, throughout the town. They knew he could really shoot that shit, right? So he was not missing or anything, right? So, but back then it's not going to kill you on spot kind of thing. So the next day, the guy sees him, and the critic who I'm talking about, the critic who married Lola, he basically apologizes for the way he acted and everything like that. But the other guy, the one who really could shoot the shit, he's like, nah, fuck all that. You're not going to get away from me. So he challenged him to a duel. So back then, a duel is when two people are standing like faced away from each other, and then there's somebody that would like, I think, shoot a gun in the air. And when that bullet, and they hear that bullet go off, they both have to turn around and pop each other. So this dude was known for popping people shit. Like, he was undefeated for a little while. Like, they knew him around the way. So he keeps trying to be like, nah, bro, like, chill. Like, he's like, chill, bro. Like, kind of like, no, I don't want to go through with this and everything. Like, I apologize, everything. And the other guy's like, nah, fuck all that. You disrespected me in front of all of these people yesterday. You gonna catch it. So basically, they duel. He ends up dying. The critic ends up dying. The guy who marries Lola ends up dying, and the dude with the pistol, he's just living. Like, he's like, man, fuck that dude. That's another dude out the way. Like, type shit. So then that was the first story of her second man, technically. But the other guy, they didn't give us a story about. So this is the second guy now, right? Now she goes to a different, she goes to Bavaria. And I don't really know where that's at. So she sets her eyes on, like, the highest guy, like I said. So now she wants the king, like the big dog, the king of this shit, right? So basically her intentions are pretty good. Like, she knows who she wants, and she casts a spell. Like, these guys fall in love with her for the way she is, and, you know, her everything like that, just her personality and the way she carries herself, right? So she goes to Bavaria, and she wanted to conquer the king. Falls to a higher up's feet. So she's riding around with her horse, and she sees the king, like, at this cafe kind of thing. And there's, like, bodyguards for the king, you know, the higher up kind of guys, like, guarding the fucking cafe and shit. So she pretends to, like, fall off the horse, trip, and, like, oh no, like, I'm out, like, the bodyguard's kind of feet. And, like, the bodyguard was kind of intrigued by her. She was very beautiful and everything like that. And he knows the king likes women, like, beautiful women. And she was also a dancer at the time, so she's trying to get her business up with her dancing. So she goes to him, and she's like, can you please show me to the king, whatever, this, that. And the guy's basically like, okay, I got you. Like, since you look so good and everything like that, he's like, I got you. And he had promised her to meet the king. But when the king goes back to his, like, kind of palace, you know, like, she's on the way. But she overhears, like, a conversation from another door that, like, nah, I don't want to meet her. I don't give a fuck about that bitch kind of thing. But she hears this, and there's a couple bodyguards, right? So she's like, what? She just runs to, like, the door to the, like, the room. And she ends up being in that room, but her titties are out, like, throughout. Like, you maybe even her just kind of, like, going like that, or just even the bodyguard trying to grab her, and, like, her clothes fall off and shit like that. So her titties are out, and the king's in the room, and he sees that. He's like his jaw drops. He's like, oh shit, who's this little bitch? Like, so she pushed through, and her titties were out. She wanted to perform, and the king let her, right? So, like, the king kind of likes her. He's like, oh my god, this bitch bad kind of thing. He's like, I like her. And she wanted to perform. She persuaded him to perform. So the king was like, all right, I got you, bro. Like, so she performed in front of everybody in Bavaria, kind of thing, of, like, a dance, I think. And it was horrible, right? They said, the critics all said that shit was trash. Like, get this bitch up out of here. We do not want to see that. But the king ended up liking her. He fell into her spell, and he actually started to like her a lot. And he got her to perform more dances, all of that. They were all trash. All the critics are still saying, oh, this bitch is trash, bro. Get her out of here. And basically, he likes her now. So it skips a little time, and he basically started to bring her, like, around the way. She was, like, in the king's palace and shit. And, like, even when he went out in public, like, he had her on her arm. Like, so that's basically kind of like his girl, right? And, like, this was seen as bad because her reputation was bad even before. So some people even knew that she was she had already married and everything like that. But she doesn't end up marrying the king. And she went crazy, right? So she took advantage of this. She knew that this guy now likes her. The king likes her. So now she gets a house. Like, the king gets her own house. All right, this bitch could stay right here. Like, because it's a courtesan. So, like, the king has multiple women, but she ends up becoming, like, the favorite girl and everything like that. And he was basically seen with her a lot and got her a house. So basically, she started taking advantage of her power. Like, now she's someone of a power. She's not a queen, but she's someone directed to the king. So if they fuck with her, they fucking with the king, because the king now, like, kind of loves this girl kind of thing, right? And she started to go crazy. She went crazy and hit a man with a whip that was going too slow for her liking. So one day she's going horseback riding, And you know, back in the day, they had to ride horses to go wherever. And there was like an old guy going kind of slow in front of her, and she's yelling like, hurry up, and he's trying to go a little faster. And then she just gets mad. She grabs a whip that you hit the horse with. She whipped little boy from like, just whipped him. And and like, that was just one of the crazy stories. So people of the Bavaria, they're like, yo, I'm not liking this girl. Like, she's going crazy. People are seeing it. People are talking about it, right? And then another time, this one was crazy. Like, this bitch is like, was pure evil for this, right? One day she goes and takes her dog for a walk, and her dog was unleashed. So she didn't care about the leash or anything like that. And it attacked somebody. But instead of helping the guy, she whipped him with the leash. So just imagine a dog coming at you like it's probably a bigger dog, biting the shit out you and shit. Like, you're like, fuck it, this dog off me type shit. This bitch is just whipping you with the leash. You're like, what the fuck? Like, yo, that's crazy, bro. Just like, so imagine that, right? So now the people of Bavaria are like really getting mad at this bitch. And the king, he's so in love with her. Like, she starts to treat like all of the other higher ups like shit. Like, they're not better than her and everything like that. So now the people of Bavaria are starting to start to go against the king. Like, they're starting like, yo, fuck this dude because he's fucking with this bitch, right? So they started to go against the king because of her. She became a countess, which is like a higher up, almost like, I don't know if it's like a princess or a queen, but like, that's like his bitch at this time. So she got power within herself now. Now, like, she could order. She starts to get into politics. She starts to telling the king like what to do for the community and shit. But like, she's garbage, right? And now she has a palace built for herself. So a whole palace. Fuck a home, a nice, beautiful home in the suburbs. Now this bitch got a palace. Like, she is one of these people, like, of higher ups. And the king, so basically everyone's getting mad. And then there's a riot that starts. And basically they're rioting of the king. Like, yo, get this bitch the fuck out of here. Get her out of here. Get her out of here. And the king ends up kicking her out because it starts to get really bad. It gets really bad. But she didn't leave the city of Bavaria until she was paid off. She didn't leave shit. So like, after a week, they paid her off like mad money. So now she got bread. So she's winning, like, even off this. And the people, so like 5 weeks go by, and the people of Bavaria had dethroned the king after she left. So now you can see from this girl that she's kind of infectious. She has a bad negative reputation that's going around, and she's unhappy, unlucky, just from the stories of her whipping the dude on the horse, and then whipping the dude that's getting bitten by a fucking dog, right? So she is no good. You must stay away from these people, right? Now the third story. She moves to England and married a young army officer. She was arrested because basically she marries him, but she was already married to the guy who had died and to another guy. So they find out, and she's like, man, fuck all that. So she gets arrested, but she gets out of jail, and she skipped bail and went to Spain with the dude. So she casts another spell on this guy. Like, he's so in love with her and everything like that. And this guy was 10 years younger than her. So he could have got him a badder bitch. And his father was somebody of higher up in the army too as well. So he was like a army, I don't know if it's a lieutenant, something like a lieutenant, right? So he had a good job, you know, he's getting money, and he's an army guy. Like, he's somebody who's well respected within the community. So she goes to England and finds somebody who's well respected throughout the community. And so she skipped bail and went to Spain with him. And he was so in love, he went with her. They fought a lot throughout this relationship, and one time slashed him with a knife. So she basically slashed little boy with a knife. If my bitch doing that, yo, she catching the arm. He eventually left her because of that and stuff like that, and went back to England. And he found out that his position in the army, he lost it. He lost his position in the army. So now he's depressed and like, fuck, man. Like, I lost my army I lost my position because of this bitch. Like, I was so stupid, right? So he ends up moving to Portugal like a year later and dies in a boating accident. So 2 of the 3 guys that she already messed with died because of her. One of the guys died because he stood up for the girl who was a fucking thought, and died in the duel because of him talking reckless. Then this guy dies because of unlucky circumstances. He lost his job, so he had to move to he moved to Portugal, from England to Portugal, and he dies in a boating accident. The king loses his job. Like, that's the craziest thing. It's the king, and he gets dethroned. So now he's not the king. He's someone of a little bit of higher up, but he is not the king no more. Nothing goes through him anymore. So you can see where I'm going with this unhappy and unlucky type of people. It's infectious. And the author does a perfect job by these stories, right? The 4th guy, now it's another guy. A man that published autobiography went bankrupt. So somebody had wrote an autobiography about her, and the dude went bankrupt. They don't like this girl, nothing, so his shit doesn't sell, and he ends up going bankrupt, investing all of his money into these stories about her. 5. Now it's the fifth guy, but this is I think this is the third guy that she married. No, the fourth guy that she marries now. She met another man and married, and the relationship was bad, right? So she goes to another place and she marries another guy, and the relationship was horrible. He started to drink. Well, she left him for another man, right? So she cheated on him for another guy, and he started to drink and fell into a deep depression that lasted until he died 4 years later. Now this is I believe the fourth guy that died, the third or fourth guy that died, right? So now you see with all of the people that she's communicating with, and she finds people of higher up, she ends up basically almost killing them. You know, one of the guys, he tries to stick up for her, boom, dead for sticking up for her thought. Second king gets dethroned, bro. Everyone turns their back on him. They loved him so much, they turned their back on him. He's not the king anymore. Third guy marries her, dies, and she stabs him. She stabs him. Fourth guy, autobiography, and went bankrupt. Put all his money invested in it and went bankrupt. Fifth guy, she met another man, married him. He fell into depression, drank to death. So now she's infectious, and you must stay away from people like that. And the author did a perfect job with this. I love the way that he portrayed everything with that story. That was one of the better stories in the book. One of my favorites, actually. The 48 Laws of Power. But like, even within real life, right, there's people I can even give you a story of, you know, that happened not too long ago. And I realized from reading this book, just this one chapter, right, I can identify the people throughout my life now, just from reading this book, that one chapter. I could identify everyone that I must stay away from. If they're not giving me good vibes, anything like that, I don't get good energy. And just the other day, like, it wasn't too long ago, it was this one person, right? This person is very, like, just negative. You must stay away from them. Like, you don't want to be seen with them. You do not want to talk to them. You don't even want to have a conversation with them, right? So I'm hearing her argue with somebody on the phone and everything like that. And I see it. And I'm like, this girl is someone from this book that I've read. I know her. Like, just instantly it targeted to her. And I was like, yeah, I got to stay away from her. I cannot be around her. I can't talk to her, right? But then eventually I talked to her, right? Just to see, like, you know, what like somebody like that thinks of, you know, just like, I have to stay away, but like, I'm a little interested. So I end up talking to her. I'm like, yo, chill out, bro. Like, shit's not, like, you know, you got to chill out. You know, it's nothing too crazy. She's screaming, cursing at other people on the phone and shit like that. And basically she hangs up. I'm like, yo, chill out, you know, take a deep breath. You don't got to be like that. And the person's like, nah, fuck that, all of this, that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, literally, this book is telling me this shit. Stay away from this bitch. And basically, like, you know, I try to, you know, help her, give her advice from my life, because I used to be somebody with so much anger, just, you know, taking it out on people and shit like that. So I try to, you know, calm her down and shit. She calmed down a little bit, but the bitch was still, like, wilding kind of thing. Like, if anybody fucks with me, fuck you mean, like this, that, like, fuck all that, you know, everything just bad, everything negative coming out of her mouth. So I grab her head and I said, I'll see you around, or just not I'll see you around. I said, you'll be alright. I said, you'll be alright, and I just kept it moving, right? Like, from then on, I knew not to speak to this person. I knew not to be around this person. Just the energy, the aura, just of that type of shit you can't be around. Like, I seen it was crazy, because the book just was like, it just went directly to the book. Boom, that is that person you must stay away from by any means. And, you know, it also says it in the book of The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, the same author. It also says, the people that you seduce, there's some people that you must stay away from. And that was one of the people I've seen. I was like, okay, you got it, bro. You told me twice already. I won't go against your word, bro. So I just hope you could get a little story from that. Just like understand the story from that book, from the art of, not the Art of Seduction, the 48 Laws of Power. Just something like that, just where you can see, even from back in the days, like, shit is evolving throughout the time. But it's all the same morals. It's all the same things that you kind of got to stand on, right? So stay away from the unhappy and the unlucky. That is something, you can't have somebody that's around you that's negative, always crying, depressed, and everything like that. And I knew a shorty I was talking to, and she had a friend just like that, who was just always nagging, always depressed, always complaining, always doing this, always mad, just always something like that. And Shorty cut her off, right? So I was like, you know, Shorty did that. Like, she didn't know nothing from these books or anything. She just knew that this person is bad for her mental health and got that bitch out the way. So stay yourself, stay 300, and whatever you do in life, trust me, I believe in you, bro.